Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, first of all, Shalu. And I really do, appreciate you having me back and talking about this uh, wonderful self-healing method of body activations, which is at the foundation of the reap healing method that you had mentioned, but that tends to go into a little bit more. But you know, starting with something like body activations is truly, I feel, empowering in our own health and wellness. And I just want to talk a little bit about how this came about. So many years ago, as Shalu had mentioned, I had begun my journey of healing and discovering that I had some other gifts through some major life changes and big challenges that had come up in my life, which is, I think, very often for many healers. They discover, their gifts and their path through something that they are going through and trying to get through. And at the time, I had some other healers, who were helping me and working with me. And it was discovered through my practice of meditation and, of course, in conversation with these other healers that there was something that we could do to trigger our own well-being in a meditative state. And when we put certain attention on something, anything really, we are, especially if we're doing it in a loving way, we are raising the vibration of that thing that we are putting attention on. And as we raise our vibration, the frequencies of the energy that's around that, what is happening is our ability to heal and to shift start to rise up as well. And if we put an intention in with that, then it rises up to meet that intention. So if we're doing this from a place, of course, of love and of caring, of attention and of intention, we can then start to find that we are shifting our own bodies, as well as, whatever the situation might be or how we might perceive or view that. And so through through all of this, and then going into looking into chakra energy centers, what was happening, I was discovering that I could go deeper into my physical body and looking very specifically at organs in my body. And so looking at all these different organs, again, through meditation and my connection with spirit, I was discovering that there were certain aspects or functions that go outside of the physical function of that organ. So that we had certain associations that were emotional, or that might have been psychological, or that could have been spiritual, that could have been something that was soul based. And so I started to, write this down, and it became sort of a formula. And started to practice this formula and seeing what was happening and what would change and shift in my life. So I was sort of my own guinea pig in that way, that my own test. And I just discovered that I felt amazing. that I did feel better. The more that I focused on a certain area or organ in my body with specific intentions and coming from that place of love, the more healing and shifting that was occurring in my life, positive shifting. So I began to practice this with other people, and they were finding that it was it was very helpful for them. And then eventually, after a few years, I felt called to teach people about this and how to do this, of course. And so that then began my path for teaching all about body activations. And again, it developed into something a little bit bigger in terms of the reap healing method. But anybody can start at the level of body activations. They don't need to be a healer. They don't need to be, a teacher. You can all start this practice in yourself. So yes, so that brings us here today for me to share this with you, which again, I'm very, very excited to do. So I'd like to talk a little bit about first, unless there are any questions, maybe, or are we going to wait till the end for that? I'm not sure if I should pause.
So we'll wait till the end for the questions. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, so the body activations. So I found that there are specifically 11 different areas or activation centers in our body. 9 of them are organs. 2 of them are actually areas. They're more of a larger, area that encompasses many different organs. And so I'm going to start from top to bottom and share those. So on the top, many people understand, if you're familiar with chakra energy centers, that we have the crown chakra, up here. However, in terms of the organ itself, we actually are looking at the brain, but the upper cortex of the brain, so the very top of the brain, is the first center. And this is like the main center. We want to think of this sort of as the switch that gets things moving. And the reason for that is of course, much like our crown chakra, is like our connection to divine and to, the higher realms, the high spirits, as I call them too. And when we begin that, we then have our whole body begins to just start to move up and get into a higher vibrational state. I'd like to preface all of this by saying that I highly recommend that you get very grounded first before you begin this inner work, this self-healing work, which helps to sort of bring it into your physical state much more swiftly, okay, faster, in a faster way. So we would get grounded and then focus on the upper cortex, which is, like I said, the switch that turns everything on. And from there, we actually do a scan, an internal scan in our body to see where the attention wants to go. And if we are experiencing pain or discomfort in some area, naturally our attention's going to go to that area. But sometimes in that state, our attention may not actually go to that area. It may go somewhere else that has a connection to that area. Okay, so I'll explain that a little bit more in detail in a moment. So our first activation center is the upper cortex of our brain. Our second activation center is the pineal gland. So we look at the gland that's inside the brain. It's the little pea-shaped gland that's right in the center of our brain. However, it's at the level of our third eye chakra center. Okay, so if we were to imagine like a cross section going down, like a point going down from the middle of the top of our head, our upper cortex, to the level of our third eye, where those lines meet is our pineal gland. Okay. The third activation center and organ is our medulla oblongata, which is our brain stem. So we're thinking in the back of our head, right? If you feel where that indentation is at the bottom of your skull, where it meets your neck, that's where your medulla oblongata is. Okay. And again, it's more or less in the center, and of course, that begins our like our central nervous system, and our goes down into our spinal cord, right? So it's sort of the joining point of our spinal cord to our brain. And then we start to move down. We have our thyroid, which of course is like our throat chakra center, but we are looking more distinctively at the thyroid. We have our thymus, which is in the center of the chest. That's another gland that's on our sternum. We, of course, have our heart, the actual, heart. We have our lungs. We have our diaphragm. And our diaphragm is sort of that, it looks like a parachute that's under the rib cage. So that actual organ of the diaphragm. And then we have our stomach region. Okay, this is one of those, the two that I mentioned, that encompasses many different organs. So we have the whole region of the stomach, and when we think of this, we think of like a tube or a tire, maybe, that's kind of going around our torso, around that region. And that's basically from the bottom of our diaphragm to the top of our belly button, right? Navel, our navel. Then we have our pelvic sphere. And so this would be like your sacral chakra. And again, this encompasses all of the organs that are from your navel basically on down to the bottom of your torso. And then last but not least, we have our rectum. Okay. And our rectum can be a little uncomfortable sometimes to activate, but it's much needed. And I'll go into some of the benefits and the correlations of all these different activation centers as well. Okay. So when we get to a place of meditation and we get very grounded and we turn on or activate our upper cortex, we do that, we again are vibrating at a higher level. Our frequencies are going up. And yet we're very grounded. We're here on earth and we're in our body which honestly is so needed today. If you think about where our attention is throughout the day, our attention, I mean, I'm very thankful for technology because it brings us here together, right? But our attention is very much on technology. Our attention is very much on external things, our jobs, our families, tasks, chores, things that we need to do, everyday mundane things, which are all beautiful and are all wonderful and much needed. But if we don't have balance in our lives, if we aren't giving the loving attention that we need to our bodies inside, then, we become out of balance and we can actually become sicker, or prone to certain sicknesses. And it can begin a downward spiral where our consciousness is now focused on pain, or on, sadness, or on things that bring us down. And it can be very hard to get out of that place. So we really do need to find that balance. And it's a beautiful way, in my opinion, to bring spirituality, our spiritual connection, deeper into our actual bodies, into our physical bodies and well-being. So all of this is sort of operating in harmony at the time that you begin to do this meditation and do these body activations. So again, it's incredible. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the functions of these different centers. Okay, so the upper cortex, as I mentioned, it's the switch that basically turns the whole process on. But it's also a place where we can awaken to our true natures. We can awaken and align with truth, what is really true, in not just in ourselves, but about ourselves and in our lives. And I actually found that, for some people who have suffered abuse, particularly verbal abuse, this can be incredibly beneficial on its own, because what it does is it resets and brings into alignment the beauty and the worthiness and the that self-esteem and all of those things that we tend to lose when we are abused. We start to believe that we are not worthy, that we are less than, that we have nothing to offer, right? We have no purpose. I mean, it's very sad, but these are the effects that happen in our minds when we are abused that way. So it begins to kind of change it. It changes that brainwashing, if you want to call it that, and begins to clean it. It begins to activate the truth of who you are, and of why you are here, and of your worthiness. So it does have those benefits, as well as just turning on the whole process. The pineal gland, which is the second center that I mentioned, in the center of our brain. I mean, as you might guess, yes, it can help with our spiritual vision. our, it can help a little bit with our physical vision as well. But it helps to open up our imagination. It helps to open up the colors and the inner visions that we might need to have to begin to perceive positively, to begin to shift our our perception into that which again is truthful for us. It's an alignment to that which is sharing or opening up possibilities of what could be. And again, all aligned and based in love. So there's nothing to fear in it. If there is a fearful thought or perception, then it's by doing this activation, it's going to shift it. It's going to change it into that which is true and loving and beautiful. Okay? So that is one of the benefits of the pineal gland. And as I said before, another benefit could be to open your third eye chakra a little bit more fully. Moving down to the medulla oblongata. This has tremendous benefits in that it helps to relieve stress. If you think about it, because it's connected to the central nervous system, what we are doing is we're directly putting attention on that, loving attention on that. And so it's going to start aligning and shifting us into that place of, again, truth, loving truth, that we are safe. We are secure. It's okay. We have plenty of time. There's no need to rush. All right. And that in turn has an incredible benefit for our sleep, our circadian rhythms. Something happens in that where it begins to improve our level of sleep. Okay, because in sleep, our bodies are processing all of the stress and everything of the day. Our body's trying to naturally get rid of it and find a way to balance it and harmonize so that we're healthy and we're strong. But if, we're in this constant state of stress or that fight or flight state, where we're in fear or we don't feel secure or we don't feel safe for whatever reason, then our sleep pattern becomes very disturbed. So activating the medulla oblongata, working with that, can then raise our vibration. We're actually helping our bodies to process it in that moment so that it doesn't have to work so hard when we're sleeping. Okay. And it just feels so good. They all feel so good, but this is probably one of my favorite ones. Really helps to let go and just feel better. All right, so the fourth center is the thyroid. And again, the thyroid does have correlation with the throat chakra. So of course it's going to help that by activating it. It's going to help clear our throat chakra. It's going to certainly help with our voice, speaking our truth. Very much the same types of things as our throat chakra does when it's balanced and flowing. But also the thyroid has, again, there's a physical component to it where it helps to regulate our glands, our endocrine system. But in that regulation, we're also finding that it's working outward, that it's helping to bring greater balance into our life, into our lifestyle. So we may suddenly become aware of what in our lifestyle is out of balance. How, what we need to do a little bit more of to bring in greater balance and harmony into our life, not just into our body, which is certainly there as well. Okay. So, things like giving and receiving. Very often we can be in excessive giving mode and never allowing ourselves to receive something, in return or at all. We always, find ourselves as the giver, or vice versa. We may need to keep receiving, taking, but never, finding that we can either give back or just give of ourselves. We can get stuck in a place where we are in scarcity mode. And so I don't have enough time. I don't have enough love. I don't have, enough abundance or, anything to give. But yet everybody has something that they can share in terms of, their gifts. It doesn't have to be material. And so, we find, oh, this is something that I need to bring into balance more. Okay. So thyroid is great for that. Then we have our thymus, which is that, the gland that's right on the sternum on our chest. And it's midway between the thyroid and the heart center. And the thymus, of course, is part of our immune system. So focusing on our thymus, activating our thymus that way in a loving way does help to boost our immune system and, increase that in that way. But it also, this is another place of balance as well. This is a place of balance in our body. So here we might find that as we're activating our thymus, that maybe we need to walk more. We need to move our legs more than we have been. We've been sitting too long, things like that. And we, will naturally start to feel motivated to do that. Or we're watching too much, television or in front of the computer too much. And we need to just go out in nature, and experience our connection with nature more. It can be anything, but it does help to bring that into awareness. And of course, that impetus and motivation to do that as well. So then we have our heart center. And I love our heart center. Of course, we might think that it's our place of love, and it is. It is a place of love. But it's also a place of fulfillment. So it's totally natural for us as humans to go in search of fulfillment. What feels good? Why do we feel so empty? You know, if I had more of this, I would be happy. If I had more of that, I would be happy. But really, if we're more connected with our own bodies and, of course, with spirit and nature all around us, and thus with each other, we find fulfillment. Fulfillment is there. So this is a wonderful activation center to awaken that inner fulfillment, that true fulfillment, you know, that it's not to say that we don't get enjoyment from outside things. We absolutely can, and they can make us happy, but only for so long. It doesn't last. So this is our lasting center for fulfillment. Okay. It's also a very healing center, as you might guess. And, you know, it's part of life for us to experience loss. Loss from a loved one passing, loss from a relationship that ended, loss from, you know, maybe a job or a, you know, friendship. These, you know, people may have moved far away and we miss them, you know, terribly miss their presence. So healing from that loss involves activating the heart, activating that center. And that's not to say that we can always be 100% healed from any kind of grief. Grief is a difficult thing. It goes up and down, and it's supposed to do that. So when we activate our heart with the intention to help heal from loss, it's important to understand that we're just finding a way to balance out that emotion of grief, that emotion of loss, of missing someone. Okay, and it helps. Doesn't cure it, but it helps it tremendously, and is able to get you into a much more, you know, a grounded and open state. And if tears flow, they flow. It's okay. That's all right. So yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful center, and can do many things. But fulfillment and balance of the emotions around loss are the big, the big ones, the main two, you know, healing powers. Then we have the lungs, and the lungs, of course, are on either side and behind the heart. So sometimes they sort of go hand in hand. And again, the lungs have to do with our breath, right? So breathing, clearing, our you know, our ability to breathe deeply, and of course, clear, healthy air can help to process all of that. But the lungs also have a component that have to do with forgiveness. And so when we, and I've tested this, when there are people who have particular breathing problems, not everybody, but it's often that I found that when there are some who have are very susceptible to certain lung infections, or even anything that is involving the chest. So particularly for women who might have breast problems, or even men in that case. Something that's unforgiving is being held in the lungs. Something or someone. There's resentment. There's unforgiveness. There can even be some kind of bitterness. Anything that might involve blame in any way is held in our lungs. So we are able to clear that and shift that by activating our lungs. Okay. And I just want to say that at any time, you know, when we are bringing our awareness and intention and attention, of course, to those organs or our centers, it's okay, you know, to put our hands there to help with the placement of where our energy goes. Eventually, with enough practice, you are going to be able to sort of internally, you know, go to that center. You won't need to place your hand on whatever it is. Okay, so those are the lungs. The next is the diaphragm. The diaphragm, and you know, because we can't place our hand inside the rib cage, we can place it on our rib cage or in that center point between the bottom of the rib cage, right there in the center, is, you know, is a place where we can put our attention on. And this is a very, I mean, other than the physical capabilities of, again, regulation of breath, this is where we can get into a deep breathing pattern, you know, for people who are runners, this is where, you know, they kind of maybe unintentionally go to help with that constant state of breath so that they can get into a rhythm. Okay. And of course, this can happen in yoga as well, and other breath work practices. It certainly helps with hiccups. I love working with this when I get my hiccups because they certainly take over my body, and I need to sort of, you know, relax those. But on a different level, on a soul level, this is where a more spiritual aspect of the diaphragm comes in. This is where our deep soul connections lie. This is where we feel, if you ever felt a true kinship with somebody, like, I'm very connected with you. I feel like we've known each other before, even though we've never met. You know, there's just a true resonance that happens with this person or with this craft, whatever it is that maybe you're doing. Maybe it's pottery that you're creating, or in my case, healing work, you know, something begins to really resonate and draws you in. And it happens here in the center. If you look at it and you feel it, you know, you kind of like sort of scan and begin to feel, oh yeah, this is where I feel this connection with you or with this. That's your diaphragm. And we can increase that feeling of connection by activating our diaphragm, by getting into that place of, again, loving attention and intention to increase this feeling of connection that comes from deep within, that comes with our soul and from our soul. Okay? And it just feels good. Stomach region. So as you might guess, yes, anything that has to do with our solar plexus chakra, of course, our center for personal power, our will, our ability to express ourselves, to shine in that way, and our digestive system. So digestive, problems or issues, we want to go and focus in on the stomach region. And so the stomach region also incorporates exactly, what it would with the solar plexus chakra. So our stomach region helps us to get into alignment with our personal power, and one that is in alignment with divine will. Divine will. So again, we are coming from a place of perfect alignment and balance in our actions. Okay, it's an action-oriented center. Okay, it's beautiful centered for the ability to say no, which can be very hard for many of us, myself included. Always wanting to say please other people, which is giving and is loving and is beautiful. But sometimes we do need to be in balance around that, right? It's all about balance. So this helps us to sort of stay in that place, maintain boundaries when we need to. And it will bring into our awareness where those boundaries are lacking. Okay, so it'll help. It's all about bringing things up into your awareness as well as doing this work of shifting you. Bringing it into awareness is part of the shift, right? Okay, and then we have our pelvic sphere. So everything around our navel and below. For women, we call it like the womb region. For men, it's the prostate region. And these, of course, will again correlate with the sacral chakra. But I have found also that it's a very tender and loving, kind center. It's a place of kindness. So to go there and to put our attention there, we kind of start to naturally feel kind, nurturing, nourishing. These are all the qualities that and benefits that we are starting to feel as we focus in on that area. But also it's an area of for our personal well-being, of value, of self-value, okay? Of, where our stomach region and of course our solar plexus is kind of has to do with our self-worth a little bit, in conjunction with our upper cortex. The pelvic sphere is more about our self-value, which is a little bit different. It's how we would like to be treated by others, but also, where are we not treating ourselves in that way? So it's a center for helping us to be aware that, if something feels like it's lacking in terms of our value, if we feel disrespected in some way, okay, then, we can begin to use this center with the intention to summon and activate and grow our own value, our self-value, and our self-respect. And it really, it has a big impact on our relationships when we do this. Our relationships start to get better, you know, because they're getting better with ourselves, of course. Okay. Oh, and the other thing about the pelvic sphere is that because it's such a soft and kind center, it helps us to appreciate beauty, real beauty, not superficial beauty, but real beauty, and particularly the beauty that's around us in nature, the beauty of things, of connections, of love. Okay, and lastly, we have our rectum. Okay, and our rectum is that little tiny organ that is by our tailbone. So we're looking at correlation with our root chakra. And by our anus, of course, as well. So our rectum is very interesting. Yes, it's going to help us with things like grounding, things like safety and security. But our rectum is, on a physical level, something that we might not know about. Helps us with our blood, to clean our blood, to detoxify our blood, and of course increase flow of our blood. You know, if we have any sort of blockages, it sort of helps to increase and balance out the flow. And also with our skin. So our skin is an organ, right? It's a big organ that's all over our body. And the rectum actually helps our skin to come into health and to find balance. And you know, the blood flow and the skin, I mean, everything always works together in our body. And these two in particular do. But it's, again, it is something that we might not think about. I know I was very surprised myself when these two sort of came into my awareness of being helpful in that way. But particularly with the blood, it works very fast. It can work very fast. Yes, I highly recommend that when, you know, on a regular basis, when you feel like, you know, you need to detoxify in some way. And of course, it does help us to be grounded. It helps us to be safe. It is a center also, for me, much like the root chakra, in that it helps us to, it helps us with our family relationships. Okay. Our place of origin. And that is it. You know, these are the basics, as I said before. And so when you start a self-healing session, you again, always start with the upper cortex. Get grounded first, please. Start with the upper cortex, and then you do a scan. And you start to notice which part of the body you are drawn to. And you trust that that is the part of the body that right now needs your loving attention. Okay? So you can begin to activate that center, and you do that just with your decision. You don't have to do anything special. You just decide, okay, I am activating this center now. Once you make that decision, you can sort of let go, but know that something is awakening there in that center. Something is happening, something is shifting, and in your meditative state, you just start to, be aware of whatever is coming up. Okay. So I thought we might practice one together, if you would like. I thought we might practice the heart, since that is, something that I think everybody can feel good about. So go ahead and just get grounded. I imagine that you know how to do that, but if you don't, just put your feet on the ground, flat on the floor, and just take some nice deep breaths, and just intend to ground, tend to be grounded. And as soon as you start to feel the need to breathe deeply, you're grounded. That's how you know. Okay, so now bring your attention to the top of your head. First, the top of your head. And then move your awareness inside your skull to the top of your brain. Just imagine the top of your brain there. And now set your intention to activate that center. And then just relax and just breathe. And just notice any of the sensations that are there. You might feel some tingly sensations. Maybe you don't feel anything, and that's okay. And just breathe. And just send your love to that place, to that center. And send your love to the divine. And to all of your body. Okay, good. Now bring your awareness down to your heart, to your physical heart. And imagine it there, see it there pumping. Yes, if you need to put your hand over your heart, go right ahead and do that. Okay, and set your intention now to activate your heart. And send your love there. And notice the sensation that's coming up. It might feel a little stuck at first. You may feel a sense that it's beating really hard and really fast. Or you might be having a hard time connecting, with that sensation at all. Just notice it. You don't have to judge anything. And just breathe. Keep sending your love there. And if you like, you can set another intention to align with fulfillment or with, balancing from the emotion of loss. Or even just physical healing, if you know that your heart needs physical healing. And start to just notice if you feel anything else happening in the rest of your body. You might feel something moving or shifting somewhere else in your body. Just notice it. You don't have to judge it or really know anything about it. Just know that it's good and that it's happening in conjunction with this heart activation. And then begin to notice as your body starts to sort of calm, I don't want to say calm down, but it starts to just relax, just feel like, okay, I'm done. This is done. It's complete. You might feel a sensation of energy moving, down through your feet or up through the top of your head. Everybody's different. But you have an awareness that it's done. And when you feel that happening, you can just open your eyes. And welcome back. Wonderful. So there you just experienced one of the centers that you have all activated. So good job. Congratulations, each one of you. You did it. And yes, I could feel it all. At part of the process, and the reason why I can feel it is through magnetic resonance, which I get into, more deeply in the reap healing method. But yeah, if we can all do this in ourselves, I do believe that we can help everybody around us just by practicing it. People feel it, whether they know it or not. So, yeah, thank you.